Okay, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are on Mother Earth. Today is the second segment of my monologue that I'll be doing twice a week. And today, I intend to talk to the international community. I am talking to the international community, and that's why I'm using the English language. I will start my monologue with two quotations. Edmund Burke, an Irish political philosopher, once said, "The only thing necessary for evil to triumph in the world is that good men do nothing." My second quote will be from and to the international community. And I'm using this for very good reasons. We have permanent interests, not permanent friends. Quote and unquote. What I'm going to say today is not political, but it has everything to do with the political situation in Sierra Leone, my motherland. Back in 1980s, late 1980s, 88, 89, the then government of President Joseph Saidu Momo, having gone through a lot of economic strains, wanted the international community to come back and begin to assist Sierra Leone on a structural adjustment and development process. At that time, President Momo was advised to seek the services of somebody who had worked with the World Bank, IMF, at which time those two institutions were one, in the person of Dr. Jim Forner. Dr. Jim Forner gladly agreed to come and do his service for his country. Then the process started. That process continued up to 1992 when it finally was approved, and at which time President Joseph Saidu Momo had been overthrown by the National Provisional Ruling Council. And because the military junta realized that they could not get this process started without Dr. Jim Forner's participation, they were advised by some elderly civilians who had formed a National Advisory Council around them to seek the service of Dr. Jim Forner to continue as previous Minister of Finance in the overthrown J.S. Momo government to act as Secretary of State Finance. Dr. Forner gladly agreed to this, and things moved on. But that's not the story I want you to hear. What I want you to hear is from 1988, when the processes of negotiation started, a conditionality stood out amongst all the other conditions that were given to the government of President Joseph Saidu Momo, that Sierra Leone will only get international assistance if and only if the government agrees to go back to a multi-party system of governance, and also to begin to institute and put in place democratic institutions. President Joseph Saidu Momo gladly agreed to this. And it was at the detriment of his is legitimacy within the All People's Congress party, because there were some members in the party who were not agreed with this. As president, he had the final say. And then he appointed Dr. Peter Lorenzo Toka, also a well-known Sierra Leonean who had worked with the international institutions before, to head a commission for constitutional review. That commission comprised of stakeholders in the society that included the labor movement. It also included the Sierra Leone Teachers Union. And therefore, at that time, because at that time, I was the vice president of the Teachers Union, I had the opportunity to witness some of the sessions and even attend some of them on behalf of the designated SLTU lady, late Mrs. Catherine Kamara, who most people knew as Miss Yellow, at some of the sittings. We had this document prepared, it was sent to Parliament, and by October of 1991, President Joseph Saidu gladly signed this document and introduced a multi-party system of government, and hence the beginning of democratization in Sierra Leone. I want us to get this clear, that the processes of democracy started at that time, and by January of 1992, over 14 political parties had registered, first of which was the Sierra Leone People's Party. At that time, they had office at Walpole Street, just across the road from Wallace Johnson Street. Now, is it Wallace Johnson? Yeah, it's Wallace Johnson, yeah. And we had the processes started. Then by April, there was a military coup that stopped all these processes. We had the National Provisional Ruling Council, which lasted up to 1996. Then we had an election that saw in the SLPP, headed by Dr. Ahmed Tijan Kaba, become the first government to be elected under the 1991 Constitution. From that point onwards, a lot of things happened which are not what I am concerned about today. My concern here today is the condition that Sierra Leone should move from a one-party state to a multi-party system of government and begin the processes of democratization was a condition given to Sierra Leone by the international community. Years down the line, we now see today a situation in Sierra Leone that we can rationally describe and qualify as a one-party state. Why one-party state? Because if a single party, a single political party, has the majority in a House of Parliament, a majority that qualifies that party to carry any vote as required by the law of 2/3 majority, then we can conveniently say and logically say that is a de facto, not de jure. De jure means it has been passed into law by a constitution. But when the condition exists and the condition prevails and dictates every outcome, then it is de facto. we have a de facto one-party state, with or without the APC participating in parliament. Of course, we're all aware that the last election that has just been ended has been largely described as not credible. There are several grounds, several reasons why it has been described as not credible. So it makes little surprise if we have a condition of a de facto one-party state existing in Sierra Leone at this time. Why am I emphasizing this? I am doing so because I believe the international community may want to say, oh, we have limits of interfering because of the sovereignty of the state. Yes, that's right. It's a political sovereignty. But what is sovereignty if the economic independence of the country does not exist? What is sovereignty if the economic independence of the country is not guaranteed? If Sierra Leone has to depend on the international community for everything to run itself, what is more sovereign about Sierra Leone that cannot allow the international community to guide the affairs of the state? They may not run the affairs of the state. Let us get the difference. They don't have to run the affairs of the state, but they have to guide the affairs of the state. And they have to ensure and assure that the affairs of the state meets the ethical and other standards that will secure and protect the interest of the international community, not the friendship. It's the interest. And so therefore the question here is it in the interest of the international community to have an example of state capture, a coup d'etat by election? Is it in the interest of the international community to have an example of a de facto one-party state being introduced through the processes of an election? If it is, then I would advise that from now on, the international community stop interfering with the political and economic situations of every country on earth. If it is not, then I believe it's time the international community do the needful. And what is the needful? Let us ask the Electoral Commission of Sierra Leone to produce and ensure that all the data that was collated in the recently held election be made public for all of us to see the veracity of everything that has been declared. If not, if the Electoral Commission of Sierra Leone cannot produce those required data, then there should be sanctions. There should be actions taken. There should be conditions put. Otherwise, the international community will be undermining its own very interest. Because by allowing what has happened in Sierra Leone to continue or to be made legitimate, you are as well saying you are allowing anarchy You are sanctioning anarchy. And of course, we know that when you encourage anarchy in a state, there are consequent and attendant things that come into play that will come back and visit the very international community. For example, allowing an institution of anarchy in Sierra Leone or any part in Africa, which is geographically located such that it's very close to the major cities in the Atlantic region, is putting those cities at risk because terrorism and other things will come in. And then there'll be a bigger problem for the international community to handle. By allowing the institution of anarchy in Sierra Leone, that will be a bad example that will be copied in all the developing world. And that will put the international community's interests at risk. By allowing what has happened to Sierra Leone to be legitimate, the international community is in a way sanctioning mass migration from the south to the north. And we know the consequences of that. We know. I am sure countries in Europe, in the Mediterranean, the United Kingdom, etc., know the pressure on their economy that they get from illegal migrants. It's high time we begin to say these things and address these things. Because the young and able-bodied in Africa has the youngest demographic on earth. The young and able-bodied, because of poor education, which also comes from the fact that there have been, over the last 60 and more years of independence, there had been regimes that have not been able to address the challenges of development. And today we see these challenges being exacerbated into the next level. These people have a right to a good life. They have a right, the young people, they have a right to a good life. They have a right to everything. So if they cannot get it in their homeland, they will take all the risks walking across the desert, going across the Mediterranean to come and find that good life. I am sure on the side of Europe and the United States, it's more of a big pressure on their economy because not that they don't want people to come, but they know the numbers of people who come, most of them don't have the required skills to fit into their economic activities, their industries, etc. So they would either have to spend money training them or having to put them under some situation wherein there will be liabilities to the state. And of course, the reverse of what we have in Africa is what obtains in Europe and the Northern Hemisphere. They have older population. And so therefore, they need more money in their economies to take care of the old. If we have people coming from Africa to come and depend on that money, it's a strain on their economies. So it's better and it's more cost effective if action can be taken to ensure that the source of this mass migration begins to enjoy certain developments that will allow the young and able-bodied to stay in their countries. That is in the interest of the international community. And so therefore, whatever has happened in Sierra Leone demands the absolute commitment of the international community to ensure that we have a proper functioning democracy in Sierra Leone. Nobody is asking for somebody to go and take out the government that has proclaimed itself elected. All we are asking for is let there be accountability. Let's know if actually this government won the election. If they won, then nobody has a right to take them out. If they have not won the election, let's find a way to institute a fair process wherein they would have the chance again to contest. If they win, they win. They are the government. If they don't win, then they have to make way for others. At the end of the day, the stability of the country is greater than any of us. The peace in the country is greater than any of us. That's one fact we have to begin to recognize as citizens of the Republic of Sierra Leone. There is nobody greater than Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone is greater than all of us because Sierra Leone has been before us and Sierra Leone shall be after us. We are here, like William Shakespeare said, in As You Like It, all the world's a stage and every man and woman are merely players. We are here to play our part. When time is over, we go peacefully. But if we think that we are here to be and to institute and enforce without respecting the rights of others to be, then that's very unfair. It's very unfair. It's unfair to humanity. It's unfair to those people down there who don't have any other place to run to. There are people in Sierra Leone, however difficult it is, they have nowhere to turn to, nowhere to run to. For once, let us be human. For once, let us have a conscience. Let us consider. Let us ask ourselves, what if I was that person? Or do you think because you are playing some smart criminal games, you are smarter than those persons? No, you're not. It's a matter of association. It's a matter of maybe the level of enlightenment we have. It's a matter of our networks, etc., that makes the difference in life. It's not an issue of whatever education you have. You can have all the education in life, but if you don't have the network, if you don't have the correct association, then you'll never be. And therefore, if we have a moral and ethical obligation as leaders in a society, I think the first thing that should always come to our mind is, what about those who cannot come to the level that we are? How are we going to take care of them? What do we do to ensure that they too have the basic minimum? Nobody is going to make anybody a rich man. Nobody can make me a rich man. No situation can make. I can be head of state and I will still not be a rich man because I'm not being head of all the money or wealth on earth. I'm head of state and I'm there for a time. But if I have all the correct connections and association, I can become as rich as I want to because it's our association with people that brings us wealth. And that depends on the factor that most of us don't pay attention to. It depends on what is called trust. Trust. Trust is reposed on you when you are elected. Trust is reposed on you when you are appointed into any office. Trust is reposed on you when you go to a bank to take a loan. Trust is reposed on you when you are even head of your house. Your children, your wife, your relatives, they trust you. Trust is the currency that exists. Money is a medium of exchange. And if we are going to go by this, let us look at Sierra Leone today. Do we have trust in Sierra Leone? Do we have trust in this election? Do we have trust in this present government? If we don't, what do we do? How do we do it? Is it in our best interest to go back to a conflict situation? If you ask me, I'll say no. Is it in our best interest to have an arbitrator, maybe the international community, come in to say, let us go back and see what went wrong, how we can get this corrected? If you ask me, I'll say yes, it is in our best interest. And so therefore, I'm appealing to the international community. I'm asking you as moral guarantors to take up this task. Get those results. Let us see how they were calculated. Let us verify the eligibility and legitimacy of this government. If it is not, then let us have the process redone. If even it's going to take place in the next year, let us have an interim government that will work with the international community and that will not be partisan, to guide all the processes, and let us go back to another election that will be credible enough for everybody to accept, and then Sierra Leone can move forward. I don't want to take a long time repeating myself, and I believe I have come to the end of this monologue. It's a short one, and it's a message directed mostly to the international community, but also to all the stakeholders in Sierra Leone. Let us understand and let us begin to realize that Sierra Leone is bigger than all of us. We don't have to be fighting each other all the time. We don't have to. We don't. It's the most idiotic thing we are doing. Why is it idiotic? Because we are all blood relatives in that place. We are all blood relatives. If you don't believe it, go and do your research. Go and find out. Look across the country. What do you see? Common surnames across linguistic lines. Look across the country. What do you see? Common place names across linguistic lines or ethnic lines. Don't we see that Pendembu is Bendembu? That Pendembu is a misnomer? Don't we understand that every district in Sierra Leone has a place called Sumbuya? Don't we understand that a Kamara born in Pujao is the same DNA of the Kamara in Bombali, Tonkolili, Cambia sector. Don't we understand that the contents of Kabbalah, the contents of Guinea, the contents of Cambia, the contents all over Sierra Leone are of the same DNA? What is so difficult for us to understand? What is it about we are fighting for? Honestly, what are we fighting for? Who in Sierra Leone can stand up and say, I am the richest man in the country and I got this money through my effort? Who? Like Aliko Dangote, he can stand anywhere on earth and say, I'm a rich man. I worked for it. Is this what we have become? Is that what education has made us into? I'm appealing. Because some of us, we consider ourselves to be elders of the society. So at a time like this, we have to step up and step out and talk to the people of Sierra Leone, talk to the international community. Let us have sanity back. If we do, Sierra Leone can become the richest country in Africa. We have the potentials. I'll take a whole program on that. I'll explain to everybody that we can become the richest country in Africa without even mining a single mineral. We can. I'll prove it. But for now, let us have political sanity. And I believe at this stage, the international community has a role to play. Whichever way you do it, let us have it done peacefully and structurally so that the ordinary people will not suffer more harassment, injuries, and pain. And for the government, it is in your best interest to work towards peace. It is in your best interest to stop all those activities that will further exacerbate hate and anarchy in the state. Nobody is your enemy. Stop creating enemies in your minds. Do the right thing. There have been governments before you. Nobody went around trying to kill them. Nobody went around trying to stage a coup on them. Because they were doing the right thing. Everybody saw. The people of Sierra Leone may not have Western education because most of you go all over the place. Hey, there is a high rate of illiteracy. Yeah, there is a high rate of non-Western education. But there are no illiterates in Sierra Leone. A man speaking Timni is literate in his language. If you cannot speak it, then you are an illiterate in that language. We have a high rate of non-Western enlightened minds. But each of these non-Western minds are thinking people. They are called Homo sapien. They think, they rationalize. If you are doing what is right, they know you are doing what is right. If you are doing what is wrong, they know you are doing what is wrong. Just do it right. The people know. You don't need to go and stand on a platform to talk. They know. They think. Stop underrating the humanity and the intellect of the people. Do what is right. You are our brothers and sisters. If we have to sit down and talk with you and say, okay, let us, for the sake of progress, have all that has been done as bygones. We will be ready to do that for the sake of peace and progress. But if you continue to harass the people, we will not stop at saying it. And we will not stop us at instigating action to be taken against you. With that, I'll end my talk for today. Thank you very much, and let us have a nice weekend.